Yo, what's going on, everyone? Yo, we're doing the yos in the chat right now. Look at that. Look at that. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Long time no see. I hope you're doing well. We got Ian in the chat. Last time he was tech support. Let's hope he's willing to do that. If we run into any sort of issues or, you know, craziness. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's do a dual stream. That would be great, actually. We can do a lot of stuff. We do a lot of stuff together, so, you know. Cool, I can see we have some people in the chat already. What's happening? Yo. And, today, we have the ZBrush tea. It's going to become a trope in my streams now. No, don't leave. No, I'm sorry. I'm joking. I'm joking. No tech support. No tech support. Don't. All right. We got the tea. The tea. We got Ian in the chat. We got the hat. We have the t-shirt. We have the lanyard. Well, we're missing the glove, actually. Oh, I don't have mine here. I don't have my ZBrush glove. But I have a ZenSlabs glove. So that's the next best thing, I guess. ZBT. That's even better. That's even better. It's the ZBT. See it? See? We're starting a trend here with the ZBT. All right, everyone. So... let's get this party started, shall we? Last time on Dragon Balls. Sorry, I'm still. Last time on ZBrush Live, we were. Of course, this isn't working. I broke my thing here. Give me a second. God dang it! It's the power of having multiple monitors and multiple setups. You know. There we go. Much better now. So, last time on ZBrush Live, we were doing a little bit of a tire here. Very simple tire. Nothing crazy. No craziness going on here, you know. And we got to this point. Sorta. Right? If you go watch the last stream, this is where we sort of ended at. We're using some crazy live booleans here on our little tire. Like if I just expose this little tire over here, this is all live booleans, right? If I turn on live booleans, there you go. We got the little trims here, the little sort of panel lining going on here. I actually don't like this, the way it's, the resolution is kind of like not matching that. So we're probably going to redo that section over there. But the point is that I showcased to you guys how you can do fairly simple, complex art surface using live booleans, using morph targets to erase any details you wanna sculpt. And we basically got to a certain level where we were comfortable enough that we could start retopologizing, right? That is going to be the next step of this, right? Ideally, I would start actually by maybe going a little bit further beyond. Get it? Sorry. A little further beyond with this model and actually make the braking system and maybe the steering thing that I can't remember the name because, again, I don't own a car. There you go. That's another trope for our streams. But for the sake of simplicity, let's say, we're just going to do a little remake of this tire over here, this section over here. And then we're going to retopo this, right? You ready? And then potentially shoot it over to Substance and texture this. Giving it a little sip of tea here, ZBT. And now, let's get on with it. Okay, so first of all, I have this tire over here, but I think I got rid of the history here, which means that we're probably gonna have to do some ZBrush voodoo stuff here for our little tire. Is this the same shape? Is it? Maybe, maybe not. Why the heck? There we go. Yeah, it's the same shape. That's perfect. We have a block out actually that we created. And I actually retained that subtool, which is, it's a lifesaver here. By the way, if you guys want to try out ZBrush or on ZBrush on the desktop or get the free version of ZBrush for iPad, there's a QR code all the way over there. Over there. See that? Over there. On the other side. On the other side of the screen. All the way over there. Not the Gundam. I'm pointing at the Gundam. It's pointing outside of the screen. I don't know if you can see it. And I'm grabbing that QR code, right? So if you scan that QR code, you're going to get onto the ZBrush for iPad, the free version of ZBrush for iPad, or you're going to get the trial for ZBrush for desktop. So you're going to go and try it out if you guys are looking into getting into ZBrush and into digital sculpting. All right. With that out of the way, let's go and control tag that, undo history. And now what I'm gonna do actually is come all the way down here to our base tire, which is basically just this. And we can actually erase a lot. You see like there's an inconsistency there. So we're gonna actually use my history recall actually. Or maybe the morph. Does it work with morph? Does that have the same topology? Nope. So history recall, and we're gonna clean this up. I'm gonna clean this up over here. It doesn't work with symmetry, by the way, so in case you're wondering. So let's just project that. Actually, let's go even faster and go project and just project history. What am I thinking? Like what am I doing over here? You know. All right. Is it gonna project? It is. It's actually taking its sweet time. Maybe it's time for tea. That's why it's taking a little longer. The ZT tastes like heaven. Now, oh, you're still going. There we go. I got some artifacting here. You know, not a big deal. We can just project that locally. Maybe go a little like that. You know. And just clean up the mess a little bit. Then project history. It's probably the distance there. And it's not enough. It's not far off. So probably increase that distance over there and do project history again. It should reset to basically it's moving the points to the same location that we have on the other subtool. This works across subtools, by the way. In case you missed the last stream, you shouldn't. You should go back and watch it. This works across subtools and works across tools as well. And here's another drop. It works across projects, right? If you have this project open up and you open up a new project, you have that. It has the little red. As long as there's this little red undo history over here, it means it's cached. That model somewhere in the realm of ZBrush, it's stored that, and it remembers that model. So you can actually, in between your models, in between your projects, just use that undo history sort of to project or to use history recall or whatever. Now, it's kind of done. Let me see. Like, can I just clean this up even further? A little bit further. There we go. Just going over with my handy dandy history recall brush. Careful with that. You're gonna smooth it out. Reproject. And there we go. We didn't have enough distance there. And careful with those edges over there. So I'm gonna clean this up so we can go again and do these. It's kind of like doing panel lining, you know, like if you're into any sort of model kits and Gundams and stuff like that, you know what panel lining is. Actually, if you're into a hard surface of any kind, you know what panel lining is. It's the separation of panels. Over here, it's not really the separation of panels. It's just the little, you know, extrusions of the tire. But it's basically the same technique as panel lining. There we go. We got some of these patterns here that need to clean up. And you can see the topology is still the same, but what we're actually going to do, which I think would be interesting to see if it matches that surface, is actually remesh this. And if we're going to remesh, I'm basically wasting my time here doing a history recall. And the tea is getting cold, and we can't allow that to happen. So there we go. Yeah, we got some little artifacts there, but it's fine. You can see the topology still, basically, it's just a projection, right? It's just moving the points up and down, basically based off of whatever we had that before, right? You can see like it's just closing those holes. What we can do now is actually go to geometry, and under ZRemesher, I want to keep those groups, but I don't want actually any smoothing, because I don't want to change the shape, the form too much. So I'm going to go over here to the ZRemesher, go same, and I'm going to go, actually I can do half maybe. Let's see. Let's see. More ZT. ZBT. We have ZBC for ZBrush Central. We have ZBL for ZBrush Live. And now we have the ZBT, which is literally ZBrush T. There we go. I know I'm not funny, guys. You don't need to laugh all at once, okay? You don't need to do that. It's fine. It's fine, guys. Okay. Did it remesh? It did. There we go. It actually did a pretty good job, sort of, with the exception of these little artifacts there. We can actually go ahead and do a little bit of smoothing. Do the same. A little bit of smoothing goes a long way. If we smooth those polygroups, bada bing, bada boom, and it's done. Bada bing, bada boom. And now that we have this, if I start projecting, does it change the topology? Does it move the points? Let's see. If I do this and then rotate it. Actually, I don't think so. But just in case, let's run a project again. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. Sweet, sweet ZBT. There we go. I think we're ready to go. This effectively means that we have a lower resolution mesh. We have no detailing on those paneling that we had over there. We have our symmetry stored from our Z project, right? We have a little bit more of a Formula One kind of tire here because it's too clean, right? So what are we gonna do, guys? Do you guys remember? If you don't, I'm gonna break it down for you. So I'm gonna store that morph target over there just in case I want to erase something. And I'm gonna use my handy dandy chisel brush with some lazy radius, maybe some lazy snap, making sure I have enough topology for this to hold. So I'm gonna actually divide this. I'm gonna use subdivisions for this. I'm gonna go up to 10 million and let's test it out. Let's see. Bada bing, not enough, not enough, not enough. It's probably because of the ratio of these, but it's fine. We can get away with a lot here, like this. I don't like this. Actually, what we could do is we could actually go ahead and delete lower, and I'm gonna turn on my little sculpture. Oh, actually, it doesn't work with this. It doesn't work with this brush. That's interesting. Yep, it doesn't work with this brush. Maybe if I dynamesh it. Let me see. Let me dynamesh this. Maybe get it to an even higher degree over here. Like dynamesh that. It's going to give me, I don't know, sort of... Well, actually, it's going to give me less polygons. That's interesting. Not as clean, but we get more topology, which allows us to go a little bit higher in terms of crispiness. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, we have no. I don't want to have this on, so I'm gonna smooth that a little bit and see what it gives us. Ooh, what is it gonna give us? The same. That's interesting. And let's see. So this is 700. I'm gonna go double. And let's see. It's the same. Interesting. Interesting. Yes. Let's go even higher. It's not going higher. That's disappointing. So let's go Dynamesh. Let's see. We have no blur. Doesn't really matter though. Like we can go like that. Maybe we can have less intensity. Maybe not that much. Let's go a little bit like that. Great. And now we can go wow. And then just press one key. Yeah, it's giving us some issues over here. That's Dynamesh. That's giving us that issue. So what I'm gonna do actually is go back to my subdivision model. There we go. And I'm gonna divide it one more time. 37 million. And it's probably still gonna be jagged just because of the nature of the beast. Right, we have a little bit of a brush alpha. I'm gonna decrease that focal shift just a tad. Actually decrease it a little bit more. So something like that. We're gonna change this. Let's see if this works a little bit better. No, I don't like that one. So I'm gonna use this. Nope. More intensity. Raise your power level. Fair enough. Does it really bother me at this distance, right? Probably not. So I'm gonna raise that intensity. Maybe increase that size, and let's do something like that. We have lazy snap-on, so we can actually go and do something like this. Like that, and then rotate that camera, and then it snaps. Oh, it doesn't. It does snap, but there's a little bit of a gap there, which is problematic. So let's do that again. Whoops. I'm gonna mask this. I think it's safer. Wow, it's taking a little bit to, oh, it's processing that symmetry. So now we have this masked, and now it should work. We're gonna do this from that angle. And there we go. Is symmetry on? Of course it's not. I haven't drank enough tea, guys. That's the problem. I think we need to fix that. There's some weird jaggeding issues, but it's fine. Nothing is as clean as doing live booleans, you know, like that's the thing. That's the takeaway here. So because that is a live boolean line, and you can see how crisp that can get. This is less crisp, but I guess it still works for what it is. And now over here, we're gonna do boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. All right, maybe a little bigger because we want these to be like tire threads. So we're gonna do something like that, and then something like that. And actually, there we go. And now, look. Something like this. Do a thread that's a little different, so it's asymmetrical, right? And there we go. Let's say we have this and we like this and we love this. We want this to be our car's wheel, our actual physical car. You know, I want one, just the wheel. I don't have a car, so I just want the wheel. Okay. So if we're going to go through with this, one of the things I wanted was to actually showcase a little bit of some blocking out techniques, you know, and showing you how to clean this up. So I'm tempted, should I model the brake system? Should I actually jump through the retopology in this case? If we do this, if we're in a game scenario, we're doing this, yeah, brake system. Okay, so if we're doing this for games, if you think about it, let's say we're building a car, right? And you would think material-wise or texture set-wise, the tire would be separate than the rim. Why is this? You're like, oh, textile density. No, not textile density. It's because in game, you might have the ability to switch rims, but not tires. The same thing goes for the brakes, the color of the brakes, that kind of stuff, right? So this would be something to think about when you're thinking about your texturing. So if we're going to do this in that sense, when you shoot it to substance, we want to make sure that the tire is one subtool, the whole tire, and then the rim and whatever is going to be packed into that is going to be another subtool. So we're already thinking about that at this point. Brakes that's a problem with someone who has no experience with cars or little to no experience with cars, is that you get inaccurate stuff. But what the heck, you know? Let me just restore this here real quick. All right, so let's say I'm making a brake out of the blue, out of nothing, right? So what I need to do, first and foremost, I'm going to insert a little cylinder 3D. It doesn't need to be a cylinder 3D because I can switch this. I prefer to use these primitives over here just because they give me a little bit of control. Like this, I can make a hole like that without any effort, you know, and stuff like this, right? So I like this, so I'm gonna maybe scale it down, maybe scale it up ever so slightly, and usually this is layered, right? This is compounding and layering. Let me go over here and actually get rid of this this section over here, and this is quite easy. And I'm just going to use my Z modeler and go over to this face and say, I want a Q mesh. Let's do flat island and just bada bing, bada boom. And then I want polygroup island and just tap that. And let's say whoops, a daisy. Let's say we get rid of it until there, because then this should have, what do you call that? You know, not the bolts, but the sockets that would basically attach to the disc, the braking disc, right? Which is part of the steering axis and etc. And then the actual pads are connected to the braking system. That's what I understand how it works, to my very, very limited knowledge of how braking system works. Yeah, I know. Google research. I did that right after our stream last time, and I was like, yeah, maybe, but I mean, if the audience wants it, that's what I'll be doing, I guess. All right, so let's go over this then. And what I need is a solid block out. So I mentally try to understand where everything goes, right? So I need an axle here. So that's the first thing. I'm going to do something like this, like another cylinder 3D with something like that happening. And it needs to go maybe something like that. Yep, it would be something like that. Just making sure where this actually ties in. Like that. There we go. Move it away. This would eventually have at the tip something similar, which would be the cap over there. So this would be it, right? And actually, let me go Z modeler, delete that edge, and delete that edge. I don't like those edges. Actually, without, just want to keep polygroup. so I don't have to rely too much on creasing over here. Same thing goes over there. Okay. Now this one, actually, there's a problem. I need to actually use this. Well, it's not a problem. It's just I want to do something like that, and I want to make sure that this is sort of hollow like that. Holding shift, by the way, in case you're doing this and then you move and it defaults the scaling. While you're holding your pen, hold shift, and now your deformations are preserved, let's say. So this would be something actually more like that, right? I don't know, let's see. So I guess we're scaling this, moving this in. Let's do that. And we can actually... I'm gonna go a little bit brute force here. Whoops, I actually screwed up. God dang it. Let me go mask lasso. No, I thought of it wrong again. Let's see. Does this work? Yeah, but then it also unmasks that. Oh, Jesus, where is my brain today? Maybe something like that. Something like that. There we go. Now it's mucho mejor. And of course the middle is no longer masked. Oh, Jesus. Where is my brain today? Brain not braining. Well, let's see. Now it should work. There we go. I want to make sure that this sort of matches. Maybe something like that, right? Then move it back a little. And now I'm just gonna, because I'm in blockout mode of this, so I'm gonna IMM primitives. Going to insert some cylinders with little bit of radial symmetry going on here. Maybe let's do 6, and let's do the little connector thing and move it in ever so slightly. And this should, in theory, connect to that rim. In theory. It's called my brain is not over. Yeah, and it's, by the way, this is like late for me. Well, late in terms of work hours. This is at the end of my workday, so my brain is my ADHD is going a little crazy by this time. And Ian knows this. We jump on calls at this hour, around this hour, and it's super early for him. It's a little later for me. And it's kind of like both our little ADHD brains just go like, ooh, like kind of crazy. Please don't clip that. Don't clip that. Don't you dare. But yeah, so it's entirely normal. Let me just move this a little bit back even. Maybe scale it ever so slightly. Don't. How you can clip. I don't give a flying Z. A flying Z. Alright, let's go crease. Oh, by the way, is the music too loud? I didn't ask that. I always ask that. Why is it? Because in my headset, it's like a rave, man. I'm like, otherwise I would have. Probably that's why I can't focus. That's probably why. So, let's see. I want to lower my crease level. By the way, in case you don't know, that's geometry under subtool geometry crease. Over here. Over here. You barely hear it. That's also not good. That is also not good. How about that? There we go. Alrighty then. So we got something like that going on. It's increasing our little smooth subdivisions. And now we got a little bit of the axle wheel here, the axle in the middle. This is the disc, and now I'm just gonna block out really quick. Actually, I'm gonna use a visibility set just for the break, and I'm gonna rename this. Guys, don't look at that. Don't look over there. Don't. don't look at that corner. Let's just do that so you guys don't see the naming. I forget to name all the time, and so do what I say, not what I do. Please name your subtools. Otherwise, I'm gonna hide it forever. You're never gonna see it again. Okay, so now we need to name this. Let's call it break, because that's what it is, I guess. So break. We got the break basics. We got the basics. Sorry, that didn't work. So I'm gonna basically just copy. I like copying subtools and then just replacing them with a little polycube. And now I'm gonna actually go to split, and I'm gonna split unmasked points and do this. Turn off solo mode, and do I like this? I don't care. I'm just gonna Dynamesh it anyway. Dynamesh it, and I'm gonna do something like this. Move it over here, or actually, I'm gonna show you something. Well, actually, and I'll duplicate this subtool. And what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna apply this. I'm gonna apply the dynamic subdivisions. And now I'm gonna delete all the lower subdivisions. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna go to the knife curve brush. Knife curve brush. See? Knife curve brush. And now I'm gonna hold Control-Shift Spacebar, split the parts, and I'm gonna do something like crazy, like this, and then maybe trying to follow that a little curvature. This didn't go so well, so I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna do that again, just in case you guys think I'm a joke. Oh, god dang it! I'm gonna do that again. There you go. Third time's the charm, right? So I'm gonna do that. And now I'm gonna actually try to round this out and then do something like that, and then double tap, and bada bing bada boom, we got a section over there. Absolutely gorgeous. I can just remove it and play around with it and go crazy, like woo, crazy. No, I'm not. I don't wanna go crazy. So now I'm gonna go and scale it maybe ever so slightly, like so. And now what I can do is go back to my original subtool, center that, and maybe I can scale it just a little bit. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, look how cute it is. And now let me check this one. And Control-Shift Tab, Control-Shift A, Canadian A. Actually, is this actually welded? Huh, that's interesting. Well, actually, I'm gonna go select a little portion of that. Control-Shift A, Control W, and now that's my block out right there. That's my block out. And now I'm gonna go over here, delete hidden, and we got ourselves a disc pad. Now we go. Well, 1000 I don't know, but I have projects with over 200 subtools and they work well, so can't say I relate. Sorry. And now we got this little thing over here. And why do I have 3? I know, because of that, because I'm stupid. That's why. And now I'm gonna go over there and this breaking thing here. And now what we can do actually is, because I know I'm in the center of the world, like if I go over here, you see like my pivot goes to the center. Actually, I can actually hold Alt and just flip that over ever so slightly. Am I using live booleans? Probably using live booleans here. So I'm gonna actually duplicate this, and I'm gonna create a start group, and actually I'm gonna create a folder for this. I like foldering, so new folder. And actually, before I even do folders, let me show you something. Transpose. Let's say we have everything visible except for that cube. That cube, I don't have any idea why that cube is still there. All right, we have something like this, right? We wanna do some foldering. So I'm gonna go and deselect everything and tap those subtools that I wanna retain in that foldering system. And now what I can do is I can create new folder, and it's gonna ask me several visible subtools are currently activated with multi-transpose. And then would you like to create a new folder containing these subtools? And I'm gonna say yeah, hell yeah. And now I'm gonna call it brakes. There we go. Oh yeah, Henry's car is a good example for this. I was actually looking at his tutorial. He has a tutorial series on YouTube from back a while ago, actually, which I followed along a couple of years ago, which is basically how to make a Kawasaki bike from scratch in ZBrush, from start to finish, literally. Like no other software was used, and it's clean topology and everything. And he goes through the entire process in a series of like 50 videos or something, and it's all on YouTube for free. So when people ask me like, oh, hard surface in ZBrush, and I'm like, dude, there's no shortage of content online for hard surface in ZBrush. And actually, I want to give a shout out, and I'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it. I want to give a shout out to Eat3D. And I know some users might, someone watching this might go like, Eat3D wasn't like from like the boomer age of CGI, like back in my day. I used to have DVDs, and I would buy DVDs and I would watch them on my DVD player. But now it's online, and Eat3D is no more, right? Back in the day, this was like Unreal Engine 3 and stuff like that. But they used to have 6 ZBrush tutorials, and I'm talking like my first ever ZBrush tutorial ever that I've ever watched was Introduction to ZBrush 3 with Michael Pavlovich on Eat3D, right? That was my first ever tutorial. And they just released all of their old DVDs for free on YouTube. Everything's there. There's like tens, I don't know, maybe like 20, 30 full courses. We're talking like 10 hours videos on ZBrush, on Unreal Engine 3, which is sort of dated now. Obviously, you don't want to watch that, but, well, there's some information there. It's kind of the same, but whatever. But ZBrush tutorials, it's impressive how most of these tutorials are basically applicable today, because they're not being super technical about buttons and stuff. They're going through process for hard surface. So I'm going to give it a shout out. I don't give a flying Z. So I'm going to go and give him a shout out and link it up. This is actually, it's more of a brute force way of working for hard surface. So I would advise you to still watch Henry's tutorials and Marco Plufa's videos, maybe the ZBrush Summit videos and all of that, because those are a little more in-depth in terms of like how to clean up the mesh or whatever. But I would advise you guys to just go ahead and watch this. Watch these two from Mike Jensen back in the day. Concepting and doing brute force hard surface in ZBrush. And this was like ZBrush 4 R2 or something. This was ZBrush 4, whatever. So I'm gonna link those up if it actually allows it. There we go. Yes. So that is true. So I'm gonna link these. These are just the hard surface stuff, and this is hard surface part 1, and then there's a part 2, and it's from the same guy. It's Mike Jensen. Same thing over here. And now I'm gonna link Henry's tutorials in case you guys really want to go Chervenka. Like there's a whole series, like literally a playlist, and I'm gonna link up the playlist over here. Just how to make a hard surface a Kawasaki. Obviously there's no organic Kawasaki, so that was kind of redundant. But there's a playlist of Henry's tutorials on YouTube if you guys want to watch it. And here's more. Let's do dumping. Let's dump on them a bunch of videos. Like, let's go to the ZBrush Live here, and let's take a look at Marco Plufa as well, because that's my favorite, one of my favorite ZBrush artists. Marco Plufa is amazing. So I'm gonna go ZBrush Summit. There's ZBrush Masters, and then there's ZBrush Summit 2022. That ZBrush Summit 2022 presentation is insane. Like, guys, insanity. I'm not gonna tease too much. I'm not gonna spoil you. You guys are gonna have to watch. You're gonna go there and click those links and put them on the watch later and then never watch them again. I'm gonna go to your house and gonna find you, and I'm gonna. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. Not Pav Mike. Not Michael Pavlovich. That's not Michael Pavlovich. It's Mike Jensen. That's Mike Jensen's tutorial. It's more conceptual. It's more about the workflow, right? Less than about the features, right? So obviously you'll still learn the features, but it's very brute force. He's using Dynamesh a lot. He's using clip curve brushes. He's using. There was no Z modeler back then, guys. There was no Z modeler, right? So Dynamesh had just released. Dynamesh was a 4R2 or something, 4R2, 4R3 release. So Dynamesh was new. Fiber mesh was new. Like a lot of these stuff that nowadays is like industry standard, that was brand new back then, and there wasn't a lot of like content when this was released. And this was still considered one of the best. I mean, shout out to them. Shout out to Eat3D. They were. I feel like a lot of 3D artists nowadays started off with their tutorials, back when DVDs were cool. You know, kids these days don't know the struggle. So I'm gonna do this. There we go. And maybe I'm gonna scale it like so. Maybe like that. Maybe making it a little bit more like this. You can see that profile over there. And I'm gonna subtract it. And it should actually work. Let me see. That's interesting. I am on subtract. What the heck is going on? Oh wait, yeah, of course. I am stupid. Estupido. There we go. The order of things. There is an order to things. There we go. And that's it. Now, play around with this a little bit. Yeah, Michael is a little bit technical with buttons for sure, but it's not like he's breaking down the features extensively. Like he goes, that's the beauty of Michael Pavlovich. Michael Pavlovich just breaks down a feature in like 5 seconds, and you can clearly understand what he's doing. And he did a deep dive on the feature in like 15 seconds, right? And that's how fast he is, right? And very clear. But these courses here that I showed you are different. That's Henry Cervenka's. It's a more of a step-by-step kind of a thing, how to make a hard surface bike. And the first two, which are now free on YouTube, all those courses, there's also the Michael Pavlovich courses as well. That's more a hard surface kind of conceptual mindset, right? And frame of reference for workflows. So that is pretty cool. All right, let me see. Cool brake disc caliper thingies. There we go. So now we're gonna actually, yeah, 0.5. You eventually get used to it though. You get used to his speed, and then it's no longer as fast as you thought it was, basically. There is a crease over there. I have found the crease. So no crease, uncrease all, and bada bing, bada boom. We got a little bit of an issue there, but that's no biggie. We can clean this up later. You see? So we're gonna basically just block it out. So I'm gonna go move infinite depth. Bada bing, bada boom. And I'm gonna go and start. Actually, I should actually work on symmetry here. So I'm gonna go and do minor correct. And let's go transform, no symmetry, dynamic symmetry. There we go, but it's not symmetrical. Yeah, there we go. Sorta. I guess it works. Let me do that. Let me do that. I don't know. I'm playing around with it. Not sure what I'm doing, guys. If you guys wanted a break, Now you're gonna have to handle my incompetence here. So let me go and do a little bit of a focal shift here. Be something like that. Maybe move it a little bit higher, like so. And then actually, let's move these two bad boys over here. Move them all at once, like that. There we go. The booleans. And now what I want to do is I want to play around with this boolean subtool. So I'm gonna go IMM. Maybe I'm gonna do IMM primitives, and I'm gonna go and do something. Zook. No, that's at an angle. I actually don't want that. I want to do like straight, like that. So it'd be something like this. Not sure. Don't like this. I don't like this. I'm gonna do and change to polycube 3. There we go. Move it over there. Whoops. Rotate it. Was it 45? Yeah, 45, I guess. No, actually, it was 50. Oh, god dang it. It was 50. Like that. Just give it a little lip over there. We're gonna have to speed Mike Pavlovich up to 1.5 now. I've seen so many of his tutorials. Yeah, exactly. There comes a point where it doesn't, because you already know where his mind's at and where he's going with something. Like I was actually teaching a class the other day where they were, I linked them up with a GDC, old GDC presentation from Michael Pavlovich, where he's talking about ZBrush for production, for optimizing pipeline stuff and whatever. A little bit more technical, but it goes through a little bit of hard surface, you know, previs and visualization workflows. And he was crazy fast, but for me, because I knew already what he was going to say, number one, I had already watched the video a couple of years ago, and for me it was like super straightforward, but for some of the students it was like, oh, I had to watch it like slowed down or whatever. And that was a GDC talk, so it's not like it's on his stream or whatever. He's just like that. He's like a machine gun, but it's not actually a machine gun. Imagine an automatic sniper rifle, like like a burst a sniper rifle. That's basically it. Like it aims and then it targets it, and it headshots like 5 times in a row, like you know, that's it. Yeah, well, I'm not an automotive guy. I have no idea what I'm doing here, so let's actually pretend like I know what I'm doing. Let me load a few brushes here, because I kind of forgot to load a few brushes. So let's go to trim, and let's load the trim hole, and let's load the trim normal, and let's load the trim front. And then there was one that was called the trim. No, it's not here. Nope, it's the trim something. I know, but it's not a. Nope, not this. It was a trim brush, or was it a polish brush? Nope. God dang it! I had those. I even had them loaded. Was it planar? Yes, it was a planar. Planar cut thin, planar cut deep. Let's go planar cut and load the planar. Planar path, maybe. I don't remember which one I used to use, but planar path, it just does, you know, something like that, and then it just basically does a little path, kind of like basically the bevel brush, you know. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go trim a hole, and just do something a little less, whoops, that's probably too much. Do a little dent, sort of like that. Does this work? Maybe not. Let me see. Let's do something like that, and then do a little bit of an alt tapping. That's still not enough. Let's see. I don't think I like that, to be honest. Let's just make it like that. Nope. Let me see here. Let me check a reference. Like, the problem with not knowing what the heck you're doing is that if you don't look at reference enough, then you're screwed. So let me go ahead and do something like this. I have a whole board just on a cyberpunk bike that I wanted to make, so let me go in ahead and start with that. Yeah, let's do a little bit. Let's do this one. Okay, it's just a standard break, but super cool drawing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do, maybe move it over there, like so, and then duplicate this over. And then let's go over here, rotate it. Whoops, a daisy. Rotate it like that. Does this work, guys? I don't know. I don't really like it. Let me think something else. Let me think of something else. We're concepting here. We're ideating, guys. This is not. This is all part of the plan. Don't worry. Absolutely know what I'm doing. I'm gonna just duplicate that over there. Over there. Let's do that. I don't really like this. I am so sorry, guys, but I don't like where this is going. So I guess we're back to square one, which is this little circle, this cylinder over here. Let's scale it up like so. And let's move it somewhere over there. Scale it even more. And let's do something maybe like so. Right? Right. So now I want to actually do the same thing. I'm going to copy this over and I'm going to try to match it. Maybe not exactly. Doesn't need to be exact, as a user pointed out. Let's do something like this. This is probably too thin of a shell, so I'm gonna have to rethink that. And just go ahead and split hidden. And now these are on a separate thingy. So I'm gonna go and do home here, scale it up. And I want to make sure that this is a little thinner. Should be something like that. There's also a little bit of overhead over there, which is interesting. I mean, I can still change this concept. I can go ahead and do move infinite depth and just move this ever so slightly up, like so. Should be something like this. Right, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. This is fun. All right, let me see. I'm gonna put this on my other screen. Let's go back to this little guy over here and let's model this little guy. I'm gonna split this over. split hidden. And this one I'm gonna start modeling. I'm gonna use Z modeler just for the sake of, whoops, something like that. QMesh poly loop. There we go. And now I'm gonna do something like that, maybe, and make sure that these are like that. There's a little lip there. And now this actually needs to be a little bit deeper, so I'm gonna do that. Hold shift just to move it. Look at that, crazy stuff that's happening. And that should clip through exactly. And now this, what I can do is actually delete this. And now we have some sort of a weird, actually, I wanna make sure I add an edge loop there. Delete this one as well. And now what I want to do, I want to mask this off. Oh, not the lasso. Well, the lasso still works. Whoops. Lasso still works for this. There we go. And to make sure that this is over there. And now I want to make sure that we have a little bit of some holes, like for some screws and whatever. And actually this should be even like so. Everything else actually could go something like that. And then this is part of the wheel, right? So this is not part of the brake. The brake system is a little different. This is actually, this shouldn't be part of this. So here's the cool thing. This should be part of the braking, which is the part that attaches to the wheel. So then this should be a Boolean. So I'm gonna go select that, masking, split hidden, make this a Boolean, and move this up to the front. There we go. Mucho mejor. Hello. Wie geht's? All right, so let's see. Now we have these little things over here. And sorry, I've been watching too much South Park lately. I think that's getting it's getting to me. It's getting my head. So let's go IMM. Again, still in this, I like using the IMM primitives just because it's a fast way for me to actually come over here and start doing some crazy stuff. And with the symmetry, obviously, like that. And then we can actually I should have dragged this from in view. So something like that. You know what? Why am I fighting my own instinct? Why am I not using array mesh? Why, guys? Like, why didn't you say anything? You guys trying to... Why are you doing this to me? Okay, so now I'm gonna create a new one. Cylinder 3D, and then cylinder 3D. I'm gonna scale it down. I don't care about the cylinder, actually. It could be all the way over there, right? And I can just do this, right? And then I can just have one of these cubes. And actually, I could use this cylinder too. I'm gonna go array mesh. Array mesh, I'm gonna go lock position, lock size. Move this all the way over there. Change this to Polycube 3D. And I'm gonna scale it up. And now we can go over here, for example. Well, let's see how wide that is. It's a little wider. So I'm gonna go like that and clip it through over there. Maybe over there. And now what I can do is I can go crazy. Oh wait, I have to scale. I have to actually rotate it. Look at that. Beautiful. So I actually have to rotate it 360 degrees, so it does a full turn like that. And now if I repeat it, and even better, if I have like Boolean already on, I can do stuff like this pretty quickly. So maybe something like that. right? Maybe a little bit more. Maybe like that. Maybe. So it would be, let's see. And I actually don't want that to clip through there, so I'm gonna use my clip curve brush to make sure it matches over there. There we go. And now we can crease a little bit. Crease that, and let's do crease at a level of 2. Smooth subdivisions of 6, because I like it to be a little rounder, if that's okay. There we go. And actually, I'm gonna reduce this to 1, reduce this to 1, and reduce this to 1. Actually, there's 2, but it's fine. Doesn't really matter. Actually, it looks nice like this. So I'm gonna actually scale it more like so. And now we have this, right? Which means I can actually come over here and duplicate this. And now this is no longer a subtractive subtool. So I'm gonna go and insert some bolts or something. I don't know. No. It makes no sense to use 3ds Max for this. You would not be able, yes, I do. I've been working with Maya since 2008. So I used to do all of this in Maya, but it's, if you know, you know. Like if you're doing a grip, like I'm gonna link another video here. Let's see. If you're doing like any sort of like eloquent hard surface or any concepting in 3D, forget about 3ds Max or Maya. Forget about traditional 3D modeling, box modeling, subdivision, because you're fighting the software at that point. You're trying to figure out topology at the same time you're concepting stuff, and that's not good. In ZBrush, you could do all of this and then clean up the topology afterwards, and it's super easy and super fast, like I showed in the last stream. So I would advise you to go watch that stream. And there's more. Again, I linked a bunch of them from for hard surface stuff. There's a lot of stuff there. I have a little playlist here as well that has some hard surface videos, and I'm going to link you this one. Why use ZBrush for hard surface? And this guy, I don't want to butcher his name, but it's a very complex name. His YouTube channel is called Cain. Not Cain as in Abel and Cain. I mean Cain like a cane, a walking cane, you know? So I'm going to go and link that to you. And his point is precisely my point. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. I've been using Maya since the UI was white. Okay, that's it. That's how long I've been doing sub-D modeling. And the same thing goes for, I actually started with 3ds Max before Maya. And then Maya, and then eventually, at a certain point, I discovered ZBrush. And then when I actually got into a class for hard surface in ZBrush, never went back, especially with ZModeler. Like you get the ZModeler muscle memory on, you're like 20 times faster than any box modeling software out there. And that makes you more hireable, by the way. Because if you can do the same thing with the same topology, clean and whatever, faster and more efficient, guess who they're gonna pick, right? So I'm gonna change this to bada bing, bada boom, one of these fasteners. I like fasteners. There we go. I'm gonna rotate this 90. I'm gonna move it over there, and I'm gonna scale it down. I don't want this to be that big, so I'm gonna. I like murmuring while I'm working, so I'm gonna do something like that. There we go. This is again just a block out. I don't need to be precious with the topology or whatever. I could actually just start messing around with this, dynameshing this, and playing around, you know. And was it made by Alias Wavefront back then? No, when 2008, it was already Autodesk. For Maya, it was already Autodesk when I started, but back in the day, Alias was, you know, was the deal. And by back in the day, I mean my dad's era, right? You used to play with 3D Studio. Not 3ds Max, 3D Studio, and Bryson, and stuff like that. This was 90s stuff, but I was a kid. I was just playing Diablo back then. That was my thing. Just plain Diablo. All right, so let me see more reference here, because again, I have no freaking clue what I'm doing with when it comes to these mechanical parts here, because I don't have an understanding of cars like I wanted to. So if we have something like this, then if we want to add some machining over there, we have two ways of going about this. Let me just duplicate this again, and I'm gonna do a lock position, lock size for my array, and I'm gonna do I actually subtract this, or do I Z model this? That's interesting. Interesting question. Maybe something like this, or maybe not. Let me think about it, guys. I'm thinking. I am thinking. Right. Let me do something real quick here. Real quick, real fast. There we go. This is gonna delete this. Apply these subdivisions. Delete lower. And actually divide a couple more times. Something like this. Delete lower. And I'm gonna go and start cutting some stuff over here. So I'm gonna go and do a little bit of a slice curve. Actually, slice circle. And I'm going to do my stroke, turn on square. Make sure that it's sorta middle. Is it gonna slice? There we go. So now we have this, and what I want to do is actually I want to cut this over here in a pattern. So I'm gonna go and slice curve, and I'm gonna do, actually before I even do that, I'm gonna do B radius. I don't want to split the parts because I'm using slice. I'm not using any other. The B radius should be a little thinner, so it'd be something like that. It's taking a while. Only using reference planes in my... Yes, there's a way. There's multiple ways actually to have reference, precise reference in ZBrush. And I could show you guys it real quick. So if I have this wheel, actually let's download a wheel reference image. A wheel. It's a wheel, boy. No, it's a wheel. Be wheelie quiet. I'm hunting a wabbit. Well, no. If you're concepting, you're not. You're designing, right? That's the whole point. If you're designing, the design is yours. It's not like you're basically in the precision casting department or sand casting department, and you're basically recreating a technical drawing in 3D. Then you'd use something like Rhino or something, really. At that point, you use CAD. But that's because for machining, it's more, you don't use polygons for that, right? But for concepting, and even sometimes for manufacturing, it depends on what you're doing, you're designing. You're not matching a reference. You're looking at reference because you're an artist and you're a designer, right? But the design is yours, right? And that's the key point. You have to understand the functionality of the stuff you're making, and then that's the part where I'm not, right? I'm not a designer, like especially a car designer. But let me just add this, real quick over here. Save this, and I'm gonna go and yeah, there we go. All right, so let's say I have this itsy bit over here. That is a misconception. That is a misconception. I've seen enough ZBrush artists doing the exact opposite of what you're doing, of what you're saying, especially in production, to say that that is an absolute misconception. And I'm talking about using reference in ZBrush. That is absolutely not true. I've seen a lot of people do that. Again, go watch those videos. I just posted 4 videos for you guys. That's your homework. If you were my student, that would be your homework. So, and now we have something like this. Okay, I'm going to show you reference, and I'm going to show you precise reference, and you can have precise measurements as well. I mean, don't forget, guys, ZBrush is the main software used in 3D printing. And by 3D printing, I mean toys, collectibles. And toys and collectibles, especially toys, rely on very, very precise measurements because it's plastic injection molding and stuff like that, right? Which is technically the same as precision casting, which is what a lot of these companies, I used to work for one, do for manufacturing precision pieces in metal and steel and iron and stuff like that, right? So ZBrush is the main software used in the toy industry for stuff like that, and including the articulation. And we have presentations on ZBrush Summit with Hasbro, with Disney, with all these people showing exactly how they use ZBrush for precision articulation and stuff like that. And that is not just sculpty. That is super technical. Like, there are precise measurements that they need to obey to actually get stuff into production. They still use some CAD at a certain point, especially if they're manufacturing based on a specific spec, right? But most of the work, I would say, in toys, it's like, what, 75, 80% of the work is done in ZBrush and nothing else. So, all right, you want to see reference? I'm going to show you reference. All right. So this is one of at least 3 ways there is to use reference, but this is the one that's probably going to stir you up a little bit. You can go to draw. I'm going to dock this over here. Over here. So we can actually take a look at it at the same time. And I'm going to go to, we're looking at front and back, and I'm going to go and actually, well, I can't do that with this brush, so I'm going to use a different brush because the brush is actually effect, which, and you have to have the perspective plane. You're going to use these planes here, your perspective planes for reference. So, and now we go over here. Yes, exactly. If it works for manufacturing, it works for everything else you're saying. Because in manufacturing, they need to be extra anal about precision and measurements. And that's my point. Exactly. If ZBrush is used in manufacturing, we're in like 15 industries, right? And 2 or 3 of them are actually super precision based. Meaning automotive, for example. You're talking about BMW. BMW is one of our customers, right? So that kind of stuff, right? They use ZBrush. And I'm not just talking about concepting. I'm talking about actually manufacturing. Like, Ian's in the chat still. He's worked for manufacturing. He's worked for a lot of these companies. And ZBrush is absolutely 100% used for this stuff. And it's incredibly precise, right? And if it works for something as precise as manufacturing, then it obviously works if you're modeling a freaking cup from a real world model, right? And again, if you're doing games as well, measurements is actually important, especially if you're doing realism, and scale is important, especially if you're doing texturing and stuff like that. So, and ZBrush is used in that as well, right? So I'm gonna go to desktop and I'm gonna load this image. And there's your image. Now, I want actually this to be in the back, so I'm gonna actually turn off this texture and turn it on over here. Actually, no, it's map 1. I'm modeling from the back, which is my bad. Switch. I'm modeling from the back. Doesn't matter. This is my point, right? You have something like this, and obviously you have an extra bit over there. And now let's load the same image, but from the side. Let's go left and right, and let's load this from the side, and let's load this one. And that's from the side, right? And you can say, okay, maybe this needs to be flipped. So I can flip that image, actually flip the other one, sorry, flip this one. And now I can actually, as I'm hovering over the surface, you can see there's two lines. One of them is landing on one image and the other is landing on the other image. If I had a model such as this, for example, let's actually insert a cylinder 3D since we're talking about this. And I'm gonna go and rotate it like that and rotate it like that, like 90 degrees, right? And I'm gonna actually scale it up ever so slightly, like maybe something like this, right? And I wanna make sure that I match something, right? And I'm gonna use Dynamesh, actually, even more. So it doesn't really matter if you're doing what topology you're doing. And now if I go over there, I can actually offset this until it matches my reference. So I can go transparent, no, not transparency, sorry. I need to go in fill mode number 3. And then I have, and fill mode number 3 is basically sort of transparent. And then you have the enhance factor, which is basically your fall off, which you can't really see over here from this angle, but you can see over here. It's kind of like your fall off, right? And the enhanced opacity. If I just make this 100% and this 100%, I just have basically the silhouette. So I can actually match this, right? If this is my center, I'm moving this to the center of the grid, I can just basically match this. Obviously, I would have this maybe in Photoshop and adjust this image, right? I have this image be accurate to each other, but since we're on a bit of a schedule here, I just wanted to show you this. This is one of them, and then you can offset this. And then you're like, okay, now I need to make sure that this matches from one image to the other. So I'm gonna actually scale this down till it matches this rim, sorta, right? And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset the other one. So it's like from the side, something like this. All right, I'm gonna offset this one. Whoops, yeah, actually that works pretty well. So it'd be something like that. Right? And now I can actually scale it a little bit. And then I can actually even do something else, which is a lot of people tend to forget. I can just project this on a mesh. See that? Even if I turn off the wireframe, that's my model. Right? And as I move my model, it's projecting that. So I can sculpt directly here. I can go clay build up brush, and I'm gonna do 5 in radial symmetry. I'm gonna do radial symmetry, and I'm gonna type in 5, and now we have, well, actually, this is the wrong orientation. Sorry, there we go. It should be the Z. Oh yeah, I have a local symmetry with dynamic. There we go. And I can actually come over here with the Damien standard and start blocking out these sections, like sculpturally, right? I don't need to actually be super precise at this point. Eventually I will, but that doesn't need to be like, you don't need to, that's the beauty of using ZBrush versus using something like Maya or 3ds Max, where here you can be as free as you want. You use your own workflow. You can be as precise as you want as well, but it's up to you, right? That's the key point. So now I'm gonna do, I don't know, I'm just playing around right now. We have that's just the drawing, right? And I could even just insert some booleans over here, right? I could just go ahead and do an insert mesh brush, for example, I always get this wrong, and then do, I don't know, a cube over here, and if I do that cube, sort of like that, right? And then these are masked. So if I turn off the plane thing, there it is. And now if I go and actually go Dynamesh to the Dynamesh section and turn on groups, it won't Dynamesh and it won't weld the groups together. So I'm gonna do this, masking that section. Again, if I turn this off, everything else is masked. So I'm gonna now come over here and basically play around with it. So it'd be something like this. And then I wanna actually, I wanna have a local symmetry. There we go. You have to take into account that with the project on mesh, the gizmo doesn't really work that well. But I just want to make sure that this is correctly like over there. And now I can start coming in with my, or I could use array as well, but I can start coming in with my clip curve brush and just start going a little crazy. You know, start playing around with this. Obviously this is not arrayed, So I would probably just make one of them and then array it, because then this is giving me some issues because it's conflicting with the others. But there you go. Like, and then you just use this as a boolean, right? Whereas you just clip this through the mesh and use this as a boolean, and you start with your design. Then you start shaping it. Then you go to the side and you're like, okay, maybe this whole silhouette thing is not really working, so I'm gonna go and I'm actually gonna change this material to something like the skin shade 4, and I can start going in bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bing. Go a little bit crazy. Something like that. Being a little bit crazy over here. Ah, dang it. It's masked. Forgot that it was masked. Okay, let's do this again, shall we? Double tap, double tap, double tap. Being super rough and fast. Something like that. There we go. Something like that, like that. Like this. Tap, 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 tap. And I start getting, oh, that's strange. Do I have anything? Yeah, FB radius. God dang it. God dang it. Okay, one last time. See if it works. Double tap, and yep, it's working. Double tap, tap once, tap, tap, double 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 tap. Okay, we have weird topology. Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter, because we can still clean this up, right? I can re-dynamesh this. I can come over here and do a little bit of house cleaning. Can come with a stroke. Actually, I can. Oh, that's interesting. There's some weird stuff happening here. I can come over here with a stroke and with my handy dandy Sculptors Pro. Because again, I'm playing it rough. If you're doing hard surface in a very rough sculptural way, this doesn't really matter. You just want to match your reference, sort of. And I would actually use the knife brush for this, to be honest, because it's just that much more powerful. Than clip, especially for this scenario. But again, getting rid of all the straight topology. And there we go. We got a little bit of a profile here, but it's wrong though. But you get the point, right? Yeah, that's a wild cut. That was a really wild cut. I'm gonna just clean this up. If I do, basically, what if I do something like this? What if? Go like that and delete hidden. We're testing stuff here, guys. Let's keep on with the. Whoops. Let's keep it up. All right. So I'm gonna go knife curve. Let's see. Double tap. Actually, let's just save for a second there. Because I'm not sure. I'm playing with a Sculptors Pro with a lot of stuff that might break ZBrush together with a knife curve. Okay, so first of all, let me turn off this baby over here. Took. Let's see if this works. I'm pushing the knife curve brush to its limit, guys. Literally doing a little bit of a test here. We're doing beta testing here, live. There we go. Clean. Ah, dang it. Dynamesh, obviously, because it has groups on. Groups is on, so I'm gonna go Dynamesh, turn off groups, and Dynamesh again. There we go. And actually, I should Dynamesh it at a higher res. Just because. It's because that's why. It's more correct to say that ZBrush is used for creating models, same as any other app. When it comes to production, in most cases, use STL. Yeah, it's in production as well. That's the misconception. That's exactly the misconception we're talking about. ZBrush is not just for the concepting phase, it's for production. It's used in production, right? Obviously, it's much more because of its nature of not basically detaching you from the constraints, the technical constraints of caring about topology and all of that. Then obviously it's friendlier to use for a concept artist or concept designer. But the idea is that you can still do a lot of production work, and by a lot I mean actually a lot, okay? Without basically breaking the specifications of your production. That's what I mean. Let's do another cut here. Dynamesh. There we go. And now let's do a little bit of a cut like so. So if it works, it doesn't work. Be something like that. That's not working. That's great. Let's do something like this. I could actually just mirror this, because at this point it's still early stage. Why didn't I think of that? No, I don't want to render. Get it? All right, do this. And now I'm going to mirror and weld on the Y axis. Those things don't matter. That doesn't matter. Just looking at reference. Yeah, so this is the point that I was trying to make. And again, we could do the same thing over here. Something like that. And then we can do the machining a little bit later down the pipe. Something like that. Double tap, tap once, double tap, double tap. Do that. And the same thing goes for, there we go. This would be the profile of our rim, right? And then over here is the same thing. This cut over here. This is not centered, by the way. So this image is offset by the grid. So I would actually either pick one side, right? One or the other. I will actually maybe pick this one. Like that. Aerospace uses ZBrush for concept, inorganic shapes, and full production. If it's good enough for aerospace, it's good enough for everyone else. Exactly. ZBrush Summit, where there was a will of making a real robot practical film effects. Let's see. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one. Creating real robots for film. Yep, there you go. That's another example of ZBrush being used in production for stuff that is incredibly precise and needs to be incredibly precise, right? That is the whole point. Right, but you see like how you can get away with, you know, like you can use reference for this, and then obviously even here, like in the middle, like I go like this, double tap, tap there, tap, double tap. And then do something crazy like that. Actually, something like this. Tap, double tap, double tap, double tap, double tap. And there we go. And now you mirror and weld. Proceed. Oh, yeah. It's the opposite. So mirror and Y, mirror and weld, and then mirror again. So this would be basically the same thing from the top, I would say. And then you start modeling like based off of this silhouette, right? Then you start cutting stuff, cutting pieces, like these sections over here. There's some bolts there, so these are probably, this is it, this section over here. But yeah, like that is one way. That is just one way, guys. Like there's multiple ways of using reference. You can use Spotlight to project images directly as meshes, which is another thing. Like if you have something like this, like an image for your rim or your tire or whatever, you basically all you need to do is get that image as a black and white image, and then just project, and you have a rim, right? So there's an old presentation as well on the Maxon ZBrush Japan thing with what was his name, Thomas, that he was showing how he uses Spotlight to just create super precise like rigs and stuff like that. To revolve that? No revolve. It's a ray mesh. A ray mesh, or actually use symmetry. You're still thinking Maya, 3ds Max, right? You don't think like that here. You think like an artist. You don't think like moving points on a surface and then revolving and whatever. You don't care if you're doing revolve now or after or before. It's all about each one of these artists that we're sharing in the chat will have their own workflow, right? And they will have their own way of doing things, and there's no right or wrong way in ZBrush, and that's what appeals to most people. What makes ZBrush so special is exactly that there's no right or wrong. Like you could literally sculpt the entire thing. You could have a rim like that, like what someone's saying, a rim profile cut out, and then you need a lathe or make it radial. Maybe not. Maybe I can just do this and then use a ray, right? Or I could just use light booleans, or I could just use the modeler. Like again, I'm gonna resend this playlist. This is Henry Chervenka doing his motorcycle, super precise motorcycle. Where's that? God dang it. I think I lost that playlist. Ugh, I lost it. Henry Chervenka, there we go. And he has a special stream also that he did for us a while ago that's filled with gems like this, and he has tanks that he's built and etc. So this is the playlist I'm talking about, right? That's it. This is the playlist. And if you look at the stuff here that he's doing, he's not using revolves or anything, guys. This is literally 100% ZBrush. He made this bike, right? He's making this bike directly inside a ZBrush, and it's based off of reference because he's trying to make something that exists in the real world. It's this model of a bike, right? It's this exact model, right? And he's making one piece at a time, and he's using ZModeler, he's using live booleans, he's using mesh fusion sometimes, and then he's just, that's it. Like you're thinking CAD, right? Which is one way. And that's the problem that a lot of people, when they discover ZBrush for hard surface, they never go back to CAD, because in CAD, there's like, if you think about how do I make a gun, there's like one, maybe two ways of doing it, because you have to obey certain rules. There's a certain workflow step by step that you need to follow. Otherwise, you're going to screw up, right? In ZBrush, there's no such thing. There's no one way or two ways. There's like 1,000 of them. And it's up to you, as long as the end result is going to be the same. As long as the end result looks good and it has great production topology and whatever, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter if you did Dynamesh, if you did ZModeler, if you did whatever. Like I can tell you, like for example, if we're looking at the rim, for example, here, he's not doing what you're saying, a revolve thing. Like this is it. This is the wheel, and this is 100% ZBrush. There's no, like, you can see, like, he made a piece, and then he did a ray mesh, and then he did all these other things, like over here, you see? Like, and I can't load it for some reason. But there's the axle. This is the rim, actually. Capiche? There you go. All right, bye, Ian. See you next time. Actually, I have to leave in a little bit. This stream is a little slower because I'm doing stuff that I have no freaking idea how to do. I don't own a car. If you told me, like, let's make a Gundam, that would be my thing. I could even bring some of my model kits, and you see, like, he's not using a revolve or anything. And if you look at the actual rim, which should be over here somewhere. There we go. That's the rim. This is the rim. Like, and I can absolutely guarantee you that he didn't use any revolve because we don't have revolve in ZBrush. We have something else, other things, right? But we don't have that sort of thing. You're talking about modifiers and stuff. Like in Cinema 4D, you could do that, right? You could do that in Cinema 4D. But, you know, like just go watch that series. Obviously, this Henry is a bit more precise, more precision-based, right? Which is what you're looking for. There are people doing hard surface like this sculpturally. And then at the end result, it's the same in terms of topology and stuff, you know? Yeah, well, yeah, but ZBrush doesn't have revolve. It would do that if I was using Cinema 4D 100%. I would do something like that. But yeah, that's the idea. All right, so this now I'm gonna try to come up with a. We did nothing basically, guys. Whenever I'm on stream, people start asking questions and stuff, and I just get lost. I mean, I'm not complaining. I like that, by the way. So don't think I'm complaining or anything. I'm not. I love you guys, and I want to keep these things going. By the way, in case you want to try ZBrush, there's a free trial over there on my QR code. And there's the free version of ZBrush is on the iPad. And if you're thinking about, oh, it's the free version, it's not fully featured, you're wrong. You're wrong. It is very powerful. You can do a lot of stuff with the free version in ZBrush for iPad. There's live booleans. Is there live booleans? I don't remember, but there's a lot of stuff. Like there's Dynamesh, Z-Remesh is there. There's a bunch like decimation. There's a bunch of stuff that is on the full version that is basically there, right? So if you guys want to try it out, if you have an iPad, just go ahead and click that or scan that QR code and download it now. Actually, let me just do the opposite here. I just want these strips over here. There we go. Beautiful spagoli. So now I'm gonna delete hidden, and I'm gonna Z-Remesh. I have to find one of those soundboards that modifies my voice, and then add it to my Stream Deck, and then I can just make the remesh, like an echo, you know. So I'm gonna go keep groups, smooth groups down to 0.1, do the same, and let's see how clean I can get this topology. Sorta. Let me just go back a little bit. I'm actually gonna retain these. These are helpful because there's an actual edge loop over there. So I'm gonna remesh this. Whoops. I have to delete hidden first. And now I'm gonna remesh this by same. Yes, you could do half cylinder. There's a bend deformer, yeah, but the bend deformer is not precise, right? What I was doing with a clip curve was to follow a reference specifically, and then once I have those measures and I want to start cleaning up and have a full, then I have that as a reference, and I know that that is the actual proportion of the wheel. Then I can do all of that, yeah, for sure, yeah. So now I'm gonna do this, and let me just use the slice curve brush here and do this over here. Let me do this so I can add some extra support here for edge loops. There we go. Oh, crazy. That is crazy bonkers. Oh, I know what's going on. I have a little bit of an issue here. I have to delete hidden now. This is gonna be easier now. So now I go halfsies, and halfsies again. Uh-oh. an issue there? Yeah, there's some topology issues here. Those straps are gonna be a pickle. Let's just do this that way. There we go. I'm gonna go and use this as a strap anyway. So delete hidden. I know I'm gonna use dynamic thickness over here. Create some thickness. And then we're gonna turn off the post subdivision. And bada bing, bada boom, add some segments. This is very, very ugly looking. But the idea is that we have something like that. This is probably too thick. This is too thick. I don't like this. I don't like how this is going. Well, you know what? Let's just, it's a block out, so it doesn't really matter. Who is wrong and who is right? There we go. So something like that. And let's do the bend curve here. Add a little bit of this. Add a little bit of that. And no thickness now. Just some flat subdivisions. And some creasing. Crease level, crease, there we go. And maybe even make it like that. Control, whoops. Control, whoops. And let's rotate it. Something like this. Right? Now, if I go back here to my array mesh, now what I can do is rotate this on the Z by 360. And then just increase those repetitions until you get something like that. This is, again, not perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect for now. We can do that with ZModeler later. And now what I can do over here is just go with ZModeler and QMesh, flat island, bada bing, bada boom. And maybe the same thing goes over here. And then maybe here I want to polygroup all and do something like that. This doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. So, whoops. Flat island. Ever so slightly. Tap that. And now polygroup all. Something like this. That would be it. Like this. Again, block out. And that is obviously not correct. Close to reason is completely different. Is the ZBrush UV editor update out? I thought they were implementing a much better UV editor, so I could be wrong. Well, not out yet. If you haven't heard about it, it's not out. Yes, we have announced it. I announced it back in the ZBrush Summit. There's a bend deformer, have a cylinder. Yeah, we already covered that. Great. Disc pads. Sorry guys, I was eating a cookie. That's subtractive. This. There we go. This would be something like that. Maybe. have it as a little lip. Okay. Let me look at my reference again. That's a complex one. All right, let me do this one over here. Actually, this one, which is the bolts, which is positive. And I'm gonna duplicate this, and I'm gonna go and Alt-A to turn off that thing. And I'm gonna use this over here, and then I'm gonna rotate this actually. So there, I want to repeat 3. There would be something along these lines. So 75 maybe? 78. There we go. I'll scale it up so slightly. And that would be our thingy. It'd be something like this. This would have to be cut eventually, but the idea is to, for us to have this shape. Again, I'm not thinking very conceptually, in a sense that I could just use my clip curve brush to get like a fair amount of the way there. So I could use like clip curve, go to clip circle, and actually clip circle center, which is the same thing but with square and center turned on, and then just do that, and then just do that, and then just do that, just to get a rough idea of what I actually want in terms of a shape design here. Something like this, right? And then because it's bullioning, I can get away with a lot of this. Turn it off. Not this one. Turning off this one. Obviously that one now has an issue, which is I'm gonna go and have a look at that boolean over there. And this boolean over here, I'm gonna mask this section off, and I'm gonna use a clip curve brush like so. And there we go. And do something like this. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. Spagoli. And now that we have, again, this shape kind of messed up over there, and obviously we have some issues here because of the topology. It's going to give us some preview issues with the boolean, but here's the cool thing. Sculptors Pro, there's a maximum, this is subdivisions, okay. I'm gonna have to delete subdivisions, delete lower, and whoops, turn it on. Actually, just cleaning up those edges so there's less artifacting happening in our boolean. Again, you see how ugly that topology is? That doesn't matter to me. As a ZBrush artist, I don't care. I will care about the topology later, and I'll make this game ready eventually. But right now, really couldn't give two flying Z's about this. So again, same thing goes over here. Same thing goes over here. Actually, can make it a little bigger. And there we go. There we go. See, we still have some issues, but I mean, overall, whoops. Overall, we get the idea of this. This is obviously not correct. Like you can see there's issues here, right? We could, instead of doing that, we could just go, if I do this, whoops, not that one. If I do this until a point where we didn't have those cuts over there, right? And then instead of doing this at the end, we're gonna do this right after that. Right? And then expose this. There we go. And we can apply those subdivisions and then come over here and use the clip curve brush. Boom. See? Cleaner. Obviously, you have to mirror that, but this is the idea, right? We get this little shape over here. Now we need probably potentially like a little tube here, which is pretty straightforward. Again, if we're only using booleans, we're gonna go over here. This, I can actually delete this. I don't care about this. And we can actually go over here. Where is that? There we go, where these two cylinders are. Duplicate that. These are now positive. And then I'm gonna go and replace this. With the cylinder 3D. And okay, that's a very tiny cylinder. There we go. And that's actually probably too big. But we can go over here. Something like this. Scale it down ever so slightly. Something like this, yeah. And let's cut this. Same thing goes over here. And let's crease this partially. And then we're gonna duplicate this over there. So it'd be, actually this shouldn't be over here, it should be over there. Right? Then we're gonna have to weld these two together at a certain point. Or I could come over to my Boolean kind of thing here, like this, turn off that start group. I don't want this as start group, I want this as a, and now apply these dynamic subdivisions. And now if I want, I can come over here with my, maybe even a clip curve. And just do something like this. See, it's kind of cutting on in there. I'm gonna clip this, clip that, and then I can actually start cutting that section. I'm gonna go like that. Yeah, doesn't really work. Why though? Oh, right, because the shape of that, right? The shape is curved. So I guess this doesn't work. We're gonna take a look at a different way to do this. What do you think about the idea of improving subtool palette like my outliner? Maybe access to by a hotkey where you can easily see objects tiny. Well, there's no tiny scrollers. I could just literally increase this to like 24 or more. Like I can literally have 100, 200 subtools here. And again, this is not Outliner. Outliner in Maya relies on its node system in a sense, right? It's a node system. Maya is node based. And every other Outliner or object manager relies on its modifier list, and that's why they have a list. Because you're using those modifiers to actually model and actually do stuff with a model. ZBrush is not like that. And neither is the power user, the ZBrush power user and the ZBrush core user. Most people who, in my experience, and this no offense to you, but most people who ask for ZBrush to become more like Maya are not ZBrush users. They're casual ZBrush users. They're occasional ZBrush users. They're Maya artists, like I was, that want to use ZBrush, but they don't want ZBrush to look like ZBrush, they want ZBrush to look like Maya. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like the idea why ZBrush is what it is and how powerful it is and how flexible it is kind of relies on the way it's structured, the way it's thought out, right? It's not like oh, get rid of the 2.5D. Yeah, get rid of 2.5D and like half of the features in ZBrush break. Because half of those features are relying on the 2.5D. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. Like ZBrush is not a 3D software. I've been saying this for a long time now. ZBrush is not a 3D software. That's why it can handle hundreds of millions of polygons, whereas Maya, after 15 million, crashes, right? Or something like that. The same thing goes with any other 3D app, like 3ds Max, like Blender, Cinema 4D even. All of those break at a certain point, and that's because they're purely 3D and they're doing stuff that ZBrush is not doing under the hood. But as a trade-off to that, ZBrush has the ability to render that capacity of polygons and to do a lot of these other crazy feature things that you see me do sometimes over here on the channel, because it is different and it works in a certain specific way. And because it's not really a purely 3D software, it's a 2.5D software. Like this is not a real 3D model that I'm sculpting here. This is literally depth information. That's what it is. And ZBrush is rendering every time you rotate the model like this. It's rendering like right? Zachary, how you doing? You good? Yeah. Okay, so today we were a little slower than last time, I have to admit. Last time we did way more stuff, right? Than this time around, but it was fruitful. I feel like we've done a lot of cool things, right? That we hadn't done before. So let me just let me go over here. Let's see if this is actually rim. See if I have any extra stuff that I don't need. No, actually, this is exactly what it is. So, but I also feel like we could have gotten a little further with this. Let me see if next time I can go over and do the retopology and stuff like that. I want to texture this. And also over here, let me just do one thing before I leave you guys with this. I'm gonna go V2 and I'm gonna go IMM primitives. And I'm gonna drag this over here. Actually, I shouldn't have sculptors on. And this should be something like that. And it should be separated. Yep. So I'm gonna go and split unmasked, and this is gonna be subtractive still. It's still subtractive. But now the key aspect of this is that this is gonna be on that wheel. There we go. Perfection. And now just send this over to the center. And actually, I'm gonna duplicate this like that. This is probably too small. So one other thing we could do actually, and there's multiple ways of doing this obviously, but I could, first of all, let me add a little bit of topology here because this is probably going to give me issues. If I apply these dynamic subdivisions, if I apply the subdivisions, the temporary ones, right? And I have something like this. What is happening over here? Can you mesh with subdivision may be partially modified? What? I literally want you to divide. Okay. I just go here. Actually, increase the smooth subdivisions here. There we go. So now if I do, for example, a dot, if I go with my standard brush, change this to something like the Alpha 06, something like that, and I drag this. Okay, I have some resolution, so I'm gonna do the not drag dot. I'm gonna do dots, but I'm gonna turn on this and turn on lazy mouse, and I can do lazy step. Let me go to lazy mouse, Lazy step. I'm gonna do 1. If I do this and I have steps of 1, I'm gonna do maybe like 5. There we go. Gonna do subtractive, increase that intensity, and now I have boom, 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 something like that, right? Which is probably better than what I had before. I'm gonna do Z intensity at 100%. And I'll do boom, boom, boom. That's it. And if I have my symmetry back on, boom, 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 boom. There's your machining, right? Or even better, I can go over here to transform. I'm gonna increase this to 12, so it's even, oops, not the XMD toolbox. And then, dun, 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 dun. This would actually be an even better way of doing this. It'd be like something like that. I'm trying to look at this reference. I mean, it's a little different, but I like the way this works. It's more like a bike brake, you know. So yeah, it would be something like this, and then obviously we still get those little thingies over there, and we get the little bolts, and the other side we should have one on the other side with the bolts. That's the design of the brake right there. This probably too thick. That's probably too thick. Especially the same thing goes with the brake. Actually, I could go over here, turn off my boolean, and go to my select rect. There we go. And the same thing goes. I want to hide those. And here I can actually make this a little bit thinner. So like this. And then turn it off. Turn on live boolean. I guess it's a little better. No, it's not. It's actually not, because there's still gonna be the brake pads, right? All right, coolio. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a little different. This stream was very much all over the place, because I had a plan. Then, from your suggestion, I did the brake, and even though the brake is not perfect and not finished, it is on its way there, so I might just well study a little bit of how the braking system works, study on how the brake pads actually work. I mean, you could fake it. A lot of this you can fake, especially if you're doing this for texturing and stuff like that. A lot of this is, as long as it looks believable, right? Then it's fine. So, but yeah, so then you get basically the ability to come over here, trim dynamic, and you can concept this out, right? This is the whole point, is that what I was trying to say is that it retains a little bit of the flexibility. I can come over here and do like crazy designs like this and just start machining this by hand, and then going over with the H polish brush, BHP, and the polish brush is gonna help me make this cleaner. It would be a little cleaner. So this would be it. And then just clean up this shape, making it a little better. And this is obviously a little, oops, I have a perspective on. Shouldn't have perspective on for this kind of work. Go. Then we get you see my point, right, where you're basically working to make the surfacing the way you want it and not the way the software wants you, right, to have it. Like, imagine how long it would take for you to do something like this in a software like a traditional box modeling, and you're probably like a very experienced hard surface modeler in Max or Maya, whatever, and you'd say this is actually not that hard. And you're probably right, but then what if you want to change something? What if you want to make a hole or something? Like, forget about it. It's crazy, right? It's going to take you forever. It's going to take you out of the process, the creative process. And I guess this is what the big difference is between using ZBrush and using a traditional DCC application, right? Again, I could also do this in Cinema 4D. I could do this in Maya, and it is interesting if you're doing something that you already know what it looks like, right? But if you're not, and if you want to design, if you want to be an artist, really, then no, right? Let's say this is the concept now. We have a little bit of some machining over there. It looks a little bit more interesting, right? You can see immediately where I'm going with this. Same thing goes over here, actually. Something like that. I have lazy mouse, of course. H polish with no lazy mouse. And then let's do flatten. Flatten this again. Winter will sand. Throwing all you see. Sorry. ADHD. Let's go. Alright. Alright, let's say this is sort of where our concept landed. Get a little bit of that Z modeler action going on, and we have a little bit of the well, less technical, let's say, action. So I'm gonna actually clip this. I'm gonna make sure that these are, there we go. Same thing goes over here. Whoops, this is incorrect. Without LSIM. Yeah, that would be it. Sort of. Matching this a little bit. There we go. Well, we can sculpt this. We can boolean this, and that's it. And we use booleans to make it more precise, but that is the whole idea, right? Of having the little break system. Right? Cool. All right, I still see we have a lot of people here. We have some people who's just fallen asleep on the keyboard, watching and listening to my goofy jokes, and listening to me rant about ZBrush, rant about the ZT, which is gone now, unfortunately. We have no more ZT. ZBT, actually. That was a good one, Ian. I don't know if you're watching this or if you're going to watch in the future and rewatch this last section. You're missing out. You're missing out on the silence, the awkward silence. All right, everyone. We have a little bit of a break here. And by break, I mean a car break, not let's take a break, you know? Well, actually, yeah, take a break from listening to me. What are you guys still here for? Go ahead. Go, if it's the weekend now for you or whatever, if you're going to go away for vacation for summer, what are you doing here listening to my goofy jokes? I know what you're doing here. You're passionate about ZBrush, and this is why you're here. That's why you want to listen to us. You want to see what we're doing. You want to see our development. I've seen some questions here in the chat about what we announced back in the ZBrush Summit last year, and a lot of other stuff coming. I can tell you guys, you have to be patient with us. That's the only thing I can tell you guys. Like, be patient. It will pay off. Trust me. These eye bags are not there for a random reason. They're there for a reason. You know, guys? Like, you know, you owe me from these eye bags, you guys, you know? All right, everyone. Sorry, I'm being foolish right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've gone over by 20 minutes. So now at this point, some other streamer might be on my culo, wanting me to kick me off the seat. So I'm going to let them have it. I'm going to basically give the stage to our next ZBrush live streamer. And I hope you guys have a fun time. I hope you guys enjoy ZBrushing. Go look at the chat. Take a look at those links, these YouTube links that I put there, that Ian put there. Those are gold, man. Like, those are gold mines for hard surface stuff. Like Henry Cervenka, Mike Jensen, Marco Plufa, and all of that, like all those great artists. Art Surface, we have Art Surface people streaming on here regularly. We have Ara Karmakian is another one, right? That's incredible. So he does mech design and stuff like that. So guys, go check those out. If you guys really miss me, there's a Discord and there's Instagram and there's all the other social media. You can just bug me. I might not reply right away, but I will reply eventually. Eventually I have to go there, right? It's not like I can't just shut down from the world, live off the grid like a hippie. I can't do that. Oh well, I could, but I won't. So, all right. See you later, guys. Bye. Adiós. Adeus. Obrigado. Até a próxima.